months ago since this team played against Lucian Na'Vi.
And no one hates them more than Yutapon, apparently. Otherwise, though, it seems like there's a big question about how the draft might change with the fact that we're on 13.8. Some regions were playing regionally on 13.7, 13.6 for some of them. So there were some changes that came through, but right now, not looking too different. Annie's still very high prio, despite some of the nerfs that came through, small stuff on the shield. Yep. Same with Vi getting picked up. Jinx feels like the highest prio thing currently for a lot of teams, especially in solo queue. At least it's the highest presence, but it's something that I think a lot of people are going to default to if you're going a little bit later game.
I think Aria as well, a mid laner that we're going to see a lot across the course of this tournament. It's also a very good pick away from Aria. If anyone saw the LJL finals, Aria's mechanics on this champion are immaculate in those team fights. So ubao, worth mentioning, previously known as Uniboy, so you've seen this guy before. You guys will know him at home, taking that one away from Aria. But the Thresh, very standard to be locked in alongside this Jinx. So far, seems like fairly standard drafting from what we've seen across the course of the year.
Yep, no support Annie. That's going to go mid lane, getting rid of that flex pretty much right away to make sure that the Thresh doesn't get banned out, because it is one of Jinx's favorite pairings anyways in the lane phase. And it's interesting to see DFM kind of go this more standard route right now, because when you look at these two teams and how they play, PSG, slowest team in terms of bloodiness in the tournament. Their games do go very late. They're often picking up Dragon Souls and stuff like that, focusing more on scaling into the late game. For DFM, they can be crazy. Some of their games they were taking in the finals, inhibitor turrets pre-20 minutes. They have this Blitzcrank running around. Harp has a ton of crazy picks. And I think for the opening game, the fact that this is no longer best of ones, but best of threes, a huge change in the format. It does give you a potential game to play with to kind of feel out your opponents. Maybe you start a little more standard. Hey, if we're better than them, we can kind of just keep running this. But if we struggle in game one, that's when all the craziness comes out game two.
Yeah, exactly. You've got that little bit of space to kind of innovate in a best-of series, right? And ironically, we've seen the opposite of that. But the Blitzcrank, take it away. This is a classic answer to the Thresh. We're going to expect to see more and more Blitzcrank, and Harp actually playing that in the LJL finals, specifically against the Thresh.
Yeah, I think everyone at this point, Blitzcrank's been popping up slightly more and more around the world thus far as a counter pick to the Thresh. There's a lot of hook champions which are becoming more and more meta. Of course, Pyke is seen by some people still with their pocket picks, Pikes, as well as even Nautilus in the meta. So no surprise to see the Blitzcrank as the obvious takeaway.
And the Xin Zhao, a few people might be confused to see a Xin Zhao ban. Steel played that all 3 games of the LGL finals. He loves to be aggressive in the jungle, and the Wukong will certainly be the ticket to make that aggression happen.
Yeah, 3rd most played in spring for Steel. He's kind of the unsung hero in a lot of ways for DFM. You heard them talking about the history of this organization, kind of Yutapon as the central figure. Evie was kind of like the PR face of it. I think he's a face that we're all going to miss. The thumbs up that was kind of the staple for international play, to see him always having that bit of personality. Now, of course, moving over to LEC, but Steel has actually been there almost as long as Yutapon has. He's been there basically since the beginning. Him, Yutapon, and Kazu are kind of the mainstays now of the DFM squad. Yeah,
feels like Steel's been there forever as well. It's just Yutapon's been there even longer than forever, you know?
He's the OG. Yeah,
this pair have been there for a long old time. But we look like we might have a Ksante as our final lock-in for PSG, so that tank top lane. And you anticipate the Tol2, this guy likes a tank. This guy loves a Malphite. This guy loves a Scion.
Yeah, the holding of the counter pick here for Tol2 is definitely not for a crazy counter pick carry to come in. It is to make sure that Azhi cannot get a good counter pick against him. The fact that he's more likely to take some of those carry picks. So by saving it for the last pick, you force this kind of tank first tank up in the top side. Maybe not going to be the focus point. It seems like a lot of mid focus with how much setup there is for their junglers in the mid lane.
And I have to say, I'm a little surprised by DFM's draft. I anticipated a bit more aggression. I expected a little bit more like proactivity. Granted, they do have the Annie in the mid lane, so they do have tools to make proactive plays, but anticipate them looking to try and play through pockets in vision and picks. That's typically what we've seen from this team over the course of the year.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that likes to get out on the map early. Harp can move around a lot. PSG, a lot of the times, JunJia, like you said, is playing more control, making sure the enemy team can't get these big leads, play around his lanes, get vision out, make sure everyone feels safe, scaling into that mid to late game, and especially stacking the dragons will be a big focus for them.
Certainly will be. We've kind of got a clash of styles between our two teams to kick off MSI, and I'm hoping
head into game one.
Here we go. MSI starts now. Live from London, it's PSG, it's DFM going toe to toe. And I'm looking towards this mid lane here. Aria, ubao, both of these guys, a reasonable amount of experience under their belts. And they want to be proactive. They want to be initiation tools. They want to start things off for their teams.
Absolutely. Wako, of course, is the late game carry for PSG, but a lot of times the early movements, if anything's going to come through, it's ubao who's going to be doing that. moving around the map. Same with Aria, a little bit more of a facilitator for the team, but works very well with Steel and Harp. We'll have to see where they try and go for it. For me, I'm very interested in looking at PSG just because I think for a lot of people, they are the dark horse third team to get out of this stage 1 that's coming in. There's going to be 3 teams to get out of the 8 teams competing right now and move into the main stage. And there's a debate between who's going to get that last spot. I think a lot of people are pretty safely betting G2 and BLG as favorites to get out. Golden Guardians, PSG, who is it going to be? And I think, like I said, for a lot of people, PSG actually is rated higher than Golden Guardians in their power rankings. And so this is a pretty big statement game to go up against one of the best minor region teams in recent years from Japan and see if they can actually kind of get a foothold in this tournament.
And I think that to kind of extend on that conversation, like when you look at PSG in their domestic finals, it looks immaculate. The way that they play, very slow, very correct, precise League of Legends, like their vision control, their objective setup, it all looks fantastic. It's all very planned out, but to quote a very famous person, everyone has a plan until you're punched in the mouth. You know? And I feel like DFM are the kind of team that might just come up and punch them in the mouth. This is a team that does like to get a bit chaotic. This is a team that, especially Harp and Steel and Aria, like working in these little combos, get CC chains off, find picks, and then explode the game from there. I feel like stylistically, this could be the matchup where DFM, if they can make things happen, could perhaps upset that dark horse right at the very go.
Absolutely. The slow, safe, steady scaling game plan that PSG likes to go for is one that, as a North American fan, I've seen time and time again. Oh, hook goes wide.
Hook for hook on the bottom side. The Flame Chomp's there, but it's level 2 for DFM. The Flame Chompers going to keep Woody in the play. Harp just whipping away.
Even without landing that hook, the level 2 advantage for DFM, making sure that they still come out ahead on that trade a little bit, getting the shove onto PSG there, but it's going to be just fine for the Nautilus, hitting 2 now.
And I feel like so far what we're seeing at this bottom lane, you know, it's Jinx Thresh, but don't anticipate no aggression from Harp. This is a playmaker. They said it on the analyst desk, and I agree completely. Harp, in my mind, is the player to watch on DFM.
Absolutely. He's someone who loves to get out of the lane. Despite Yutapon being a huge focus for this team and how they want to play out games, they are more than willing to have Harp do exactly this. Head up the river, ditch bot lane as soon as they have prio, start getting vision control for Aria, maybe even make a gank happen here. Ubao, no idea that he's all the way this far up the river.
Now, Aria has the stun, has flash available, but do they have the damage to finish off a level 4 Aria? I'm not so sure.
No, I think the fact that they don't have good, clear eyes on where JunJia is, as well as the fact that the wave is pushing in, means that you're going to be fighting into a minion wave, maybe the enemy jungler is collapsing. Nice little play there for Harp to get out of lane while you get this kind of cheater recall out for Yutapon, quickly grab a Cull and his Doran's Blade to be able to start focusing on farming up, and Harp during that time doesn't really lose anything. He's going to meet back up at the exact same time as he gets back to lane.
Yeah, I do just want to quickly mention this top lane as well, because while it's not the most exciting matchup, there's a big OCS difference going on in that top side right now. Tol2 having a bit of a struggle, but I'm going to hold that thought because Steel moving down to the bottom side. Wako and Woody moved up perhaps a little too far. It's a great little hook, and it's a great Flame Chompers to follow on up. Woody forced a flash. Steel moving in as well. It's a great little dredge line. Is it going to be enough though? Woody underneath the tower, and Wako returning that damage.
Yeah, not enough to find a kill there. Woody was able to land the Q to get onto the wall and escape, but still burns the flash and ignite from the bot lane there, only costing Yutapon his ghost. So a very nice trade by DFM. Make sure that they're going to have control of this bot lane for a long period of time. The early aggression from DFM, already throwing a small wrinkle in the plan of PSG. Going to be much harder to control these dragons now that your bot lane's a little bit on the back foot.
Yeah, and that's something that during like domestic play, PSG were absolutely on it with neutral objectives. Like, we're talking about them playing slow. It's not necessarily that they're not proactive, it's that they are controlled. And so when it came to Dragons and things, they were all over it. Tol2 in a bit of trouble up on the top side. Azhi slightly wide on the knockback, but I could see a solo kill written all over that.
Yeah, during that time with the pressure in the top side, JunJia getting some counter jungling in, is able to steal a little bit away there. Both junglers just scrapping it out.
Just a bit of a punch out in the jungle here, but Steel likes his odds on this one. The mid lane is going to be heading over, but JunJia so low on HP. Steel has to use his clone. JunJia out, flash for flash with the mid laners.
All right, no follow-up there already. You can see the fact that Steel had kind of backed off and used his clone backwards and understood the play wasn't going to continue, but Aria going flash for flash in the mid lane just speaks to the aggressive mindset that these guys have and the fact DFM always wants to look for plays. I will say, as the Ahri coming up on 6 here, feel okay losing my flash, whereas for Annie, that's a huge playmaking tool. If you start roaming around the map, not having your flash does mean you lose a bit of that instantaneous engage.
And especially when you're against a Vi alongside the Ahri, right? Like, Vi is probably the best jungler for punishing a lack of flash on an individual player. So, got to keep our eyes on Aria, playing safe towards that mid lane. I do want to quickly talk about the AD carries as well. You already mentioned Wako kind of being the late game insurance for the squad of PSG. I'd say the same is true for Yutapon. I just want to mention, like, outside of League of Legends as well, Yutapon is an absolute gamer. We already talked about his longevity. He's only a month and a day behind Faker in the duration he's had on this team, but he's also Radiant in Valorant. He's global elite in CS. He used to be rank 1 in Overwatch. This guy is the epitome of one of those, you know, at school, there was those guys that were just better than everyone at every game they touched. That's Yutapon in a nutshell.
This guy games.
Big time.
Definitely going to be relied upon here. And like you said, just the longevity that he's had, doing it with so many different lineups, different teammates, having to kind of adjust his play style. Yeah. It's a kind of a dead era for franchise players, it feels like. People are always jumping around. TES, you know, the fact that Knight suddenly swapped off there, it does feel like we're in an era where it's hard to find someone who's going to stick on a team long term. So that's why people like Faker, like Yutapon, who can stay on teams for extended periods of time. Very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned his versatility as well. Like, the guy has played 4 roles for this team. Like, he's not just been an AD carry this whole time. 2014, he played every role except the mid lane. And he's one of those AD carries that was happy to play the mages back when that was the meta. So definitely a player that you can rely on.
All right, let's bump up to the top side again, which you were kind of hitting on. The CS lead that was growing. It's up to 20 CS now. You can see some dirty farming by Azhi there between the turrets. And it's something that, with the loss of Evie, was a big question mark. Hold on, as we might have a dive coming into the bot lane. Scout it out.
Yeah, JunJia's like, okay, my top laner is proxying in the top side. That means I can hammer this bottom lane. Yutapon and Harp send packing as ubao moves down as well. And Wako with that white gun is going to shred plates.
Absolutely going to start stacking up that gold for Wako. And like you said about the controlled play, the fact that they have vision on the jungle here of the side of DFM, because they have that pressure on the top side, they know there's no way they can test this. They move the extra people down. ubao moves as well, just for that extra bit of insurance. They probably attract the TPs as well. They know there's no TPs to cover this play. And this is like, okay, it's a 0-0 game, but they're making moves on the map, and they're extending their gold lead, and especially getting their primary carry fed on the Aphelios.
And I feel like that sequence of play right there is a really great case study on like how PSG likes to play. They don't actually go for the dive. They respect what's happening there with the Thresh. They just take the plates, and they're like, okay, we've got our advantage, we back away.
And this is why everyone's so hot. It's like the analyst favorite kind of play, like, oh, the map movement, it's so beautiful. They spot the enemy jungler, they move to the weak side to overload it for plays. Oh, and that's why people are so excited about this team, is they play good fundamental League of Legends to find ways to get advantages that aren't just about 1v1ing your opponent in lane or winning some skirmish around a neutral objective.
But now, starting off, speaking of neutral objectives, that Herald on the top side. JunJia still on the play, Woody alongside him. See the movement from the mid laners, the movement from the top laners. DFM have matched everything though. I feel like for now we're kind of at a bit of a stalemate, although the knockback onto Tol2. Azhi wants his first solo kill of the tournament, forces the flash out, but ultimate's still available for Tol2. He's moving into the plate, steal, with a cyclone onto JunJia, follows him over the wall as the rocket flies across the map. PSG backing away from this one. Rocket straight between the goalposts.
All right, goal there for Yutapon on the other side of the map. We'll see if PSG are going to let this one go. Shelly's still at half health. Rest of PSG collapsing in. Ubao's in a nice flank position here.
They're letting nothing go. Absolutely nothing. Ubao in. Tol2 misses the ultimate and will be taken down as 1-for-1 so far. There's JunJia on the backside. The charm is nice onto Aria. There's now the all-out 2v1 on the top side of the play. And Azhi forced away, but the health bars are so low. Ubao getting the recess, but he can't quite finish the kill onto Aria. No flash from earlier as he looks for a little bit more, and there's a bonus kill on top.
3-for-1 for PSG, able to steal away the Rift Herald as well. DFM using so many of their ultimates pre-fight. PSG back off, they absorb that initial engage and then find the re-engage with all those tools down. Smashing that fight, getting the CS leads, working down both side lane turrets at the same time. During that, Yutapon was stuck under the turret while Wako just worked down this turret.
Look at that, we're 10 minutes in and he's pretty much got all of these plays solo as well. The first 2 plays we saw earlier on, the rest of the team backed away. Like, this is an Aphelios that is getting super snowballed, and JunJia has that Herald where he can place it wherever he wants on the map.
Yeah, we'll take another look at this fight. Like we said, you can already see the Annie ultimate burn down there on the top side. We saw the Wukong ult used as well. And so even though it initially trades 1-for-1, ubao still has all his ult charges. Very nice charm there onto Aria. Harp trying to save him, but it pulls him right into Ahri, who is already in his ultimate form, dropping a lot of damage down there. Easy chase down on the tail end of this fight. Aria, maybe if he had his stun up here, could have survived. Didn't have it. Potion taking was not enough to keep him alive. There's the Herald. Eye down, but it was actually picked up, I believe, by JunJia.
Yeah,
he does have it.
Yep. JunJia does have it, so he They must have picked it up after the play. We can see items starting to come in as well. That Gale Force already picked up. The Cull finished off for Wako. But JunJia already having the Black Cleaver, 2-0-1 on the Vi. And, you know, a lot of the time, people talk about, you know, the AD carry didn't get the kill, the mid laner didn't get the kill. But Vi is one of these champions that you're happy to have a couple of early kills on.
It's like, am I building Radiant Virtue, or am I going to build damage first? And the fact you get these early kills, you're like, all right, let's go the Black Cleaver build. Let's get this thing going.
We have a little bit of a sneaky play, though, coming out from DFM. Hiding away in this brush. Harp's going to show up. Yutapon's going to show up. Oh, steal. Canceling the recall. Wako could be in trouble. Has his summoners, so does Woody.
Ultimate back available for steal.
He feels tense, but I don't feel like they're going to pull the trigger.
Just don't think they have enough vision to feel confident going for that play. The fact that they could have had JunJia back there in the back pocket. He was in the river temporarily, but you can see that there's no vision down for DFM actually, so they're kind of brute forcing this play blind. The fact that the Rift Herald was just used mid is a bit of a tell that, hey, JunJia is not waiting in lane at least with these guys, but already PSG has dipped out of there, moved into river, and started grabbing the dragon during this Rift Herald charge.
Cheeky little charm there. Found mid lane. But once again, textbook, right? Drop Herald mid. Not only are you getting plates and a presence there, but it gives you priority to then move over and take your first Drake. I will say, that is a very slow first Drake for what you expect out of PSG domestically.
I think they would have liked to grab the first one a little bit faster. That early flash that was burned of Woody, allowing them to back off and temporarily wait until they get into a powerful position again. It's another thing, while we continue to list the things that PSG does well, is absorb pressure. The fact that they did have this temporary disadvantage in the bot lane, and you know, just a couple minutes later, they're the ones almost forcing down this turret without any Herald usage. Right here, Wako's going to be able to finish that one off in a second. And the gold lead continues to grow. He's already 1,600 gold ahead of Yutapon. With this turret dropping now, he's over 2,000 gold up on his opponent.
That's not bad, is it? It's not bad.
I feel pretty good about that if my AD carries up that far,
Considering he's 0-0-0, how often do you see that kind of lead in an essentially neutral lane? That is kind of something absurd from Wako. Just finished his boots as well. There's a BF sword there. He is ready to fight. And I feel like PSG, the way that we've seen them play is, like we said, this slow methodical style, and then they get towards the team fights once they've got their items. DFM, they're a team that can get a little bit impatient. They're a team that when the game is slow like this, we've seen Harp go for plays. We've seen Harp be quite often the initiation tool alongside Steel as like almost dive buddies. On the Thresh, I don't know if he can really be that tool for the team.
It's definitely a little harder to just decide to go in. At that point, you have to land the hook and get all this nice setup. I will say also about just mentality, the fact that they had that bush stack there. I feel like domestically, DFM doesn't care if the enemy jungler's there, and they're going to try and go for that play anyways. Here on the international stage, maybe feeling a little bit more gun-shy in the first game, maybe nerves into them just a little bit, because right now PSG are rolling over them a little bit. Speaking of how good Wako is with gold, Molecule on Twitter has these kind of like infographics that he does, and there's one that shows damage per minute with gold, basically, damage share, with also gold percent for your team. And on that graphic, Wako is way up into the right in terms of getting way more damage done with his gold. So if there's someone you want this farmed on the team, it's absolutely him.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the point I made about, you know, JunJia, Corgi, the coach for the team, both of them previously on that EDG roster. The way I see PSG right now is like Diet 2021 EDG. Like that same style of like they want to play through strong lanes and they want to apparently dive in the top side as well. As a hook from Woody, it's knockups galore and it's damage coming out from ubao. Absolutely immaculate stuff.
Great play by PSG there, breaking the mid turret open, and during that time moving up to the top side. You can just see absolutely beautiful vision control for them here in this side of the map. They have that little section cordoned off there. Hold on, got a fight going.
Wako has the damage!
No.
They thought they had the weak side. They thought they had the play, but Wako just annihilates them.
Finds that kill without burning any sums there. Wako making DFM look silly as he gets a first kill on the board for him there. And the top turret gonna drop as well.
It's the fact that he just didn't retreat. He was just like, oh, you guys want to fight? Okay. Just dodges the skill shots and just blasts his damage out. Harp just taken out of the picture entirely. And I mean, well, it's a 5,000 gold lead for PSG. Just everything that could be going well for PSG is going well for PSG.
Yeah, you got to feeling good. Anyone who was predicting Dark Horse PSG, this is a very validating first game. The fact that they are so in the lead. And here you see the dangers of trying to make a play against White Gun Aphelios. Drops the turret down there, starts stacking the chakrams, eats some turret damage as well. Very clean combo there. Gets that last auto attack with range from the green gun. Chakrams come flying in. Boom.
That's beautiful stuff coming out from him.
No celebration. He's a cold face killer.
Yeah, that is cool. Carp. collected right there. Ice in the veins from Wako. As now another Herald will be taken by PSG, and they continue this snowball rolling. And I mean, what more could you ask? And I think for a lot of PCS fans watching today, like, there's expectation on this team because they have completely rebuilt from the previous year. And while we have some returning faces that have been with the organization and have been in PCS for some time, like, this has not been the PSG roster ever before. So while you know PSG as an organization, you don't know it with this set of players. So there is a lot to work towards to show that they can live up to the expectation of the organization.
Yeah, I think people are used to seeing the name Hanabi right there in the top lane instead of Azhi, but the fact that he's come in and done such a good job, Wako and, you know, Ubao having some international experience before JunJia as well, like you talked about. It's not like it's a team full of rookies, but it's the first time this collection of guys has been on PSG. The fact that they had to rebuild after missing Worlds last year, pretty disappointing for them, I believe. And so this team has had a very, very clean postseason, making it all the way here, kind of reestablishing PCS as the de facto team to fear in these kinds of play-in tournaments.
I mean, that's the goal today, right? That's absolutely the goal of PSG. Aria, though, stepping forwards, and you can see DFM just fully grouped up. They've got a Malphite. They can still make plays as JunJia goes over the wall. Flashes the ultimate from Tol2. The reactions are too good from JunJia. Unless DFM's engaged, basically down the drain.
Yeah, not much left here. I mean, Annie will still have alt flash available. We'll see if they can find an easy pickoff, but such good vision control by PSG here.
So knock up onto Steel. Good damage, forcing him away once again. Remember, we're fighting over the Drake here. It's a Hex Deck Drake on the Rift. PSG not moving over to get the Drake just yet. They want this fight. Ubao goes forwards. Knocked up by the Cyclone as well, though. PSG, now with control, can move back down to the bottom.
Yeah, they just completely shoved them out of the mid lane there, get the ultimate out of Steel defensively to make sure that they could not get jumped on top of. But during that time period means that now PSG have complete control. DFM are going to back off. Gold lead's going to continue to grow. Dragon's going to go in their back pocket. Each fight just gets more and more difficult to win from here.
I just want to point something out that you never see in pro play. Ubao has a 0-stack Medjais without dying. He has bought that Medjais without having any Dark Seal stacks. Like, almost always you see it bought on like 8 or 10 stacks on a Dark Seal. That is bold. He knows he's going to do well.
Playing with confidence, you could say. As well as the fact that a lot of the times the games are a little bit bloodier when you start going for these. You're smashing a little bit more in terms of kills. While it is a very dominant gold lead for PSG, it has not come off the back of kills. So not as many opportunities to stack the Dark Seal as you might initially before picking up Medjais.
Yeah, but confident to go for it. So we're keeping our eyes on him. And remember, this is Uniboy, so you've seen him previously, had a little stint in the LPL. At the same time as JunJia was back on EDG, but now both of them joined forces on PSG. And it's good to see this team like feeling confident on the stage. It's good to see them playing the same way that we saw them playing domestically, you know, still sticking to that game.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things they do very well is pick a side of the map that they want to control. It was one of the things I was trying to highlight before. We saw the Wako 1v1 onto Harp there, but they decide that, hey, this is the top lane that we want to put most of our resources in. Azhi's down the bot side. He doesn't need as many wards set up usually. And then they fight contest vision slowly. They have a lot of patience in how they do it. It's not instantly engaging on someone next to the ward. You can see JunJia there charging the Vault Breaker up, ready to go in, threatening it, buying space to try and contest this pink ward, and really taking their time to get this vision control while getting the shove in the top side. Now that Ubao has that, he can move into the jungle and help them actually secure this vision. It's such a textbook way of playing League of Legends.
Yeah, Herald comes down on the top side. That was about to time out, so JunJia pretty much just has to slam that at this point. I don't think he'll quite finish the tower off. In fact, he might not be able to get a charge as he's hooked under. But there we go. No, he will be able to get his charge off in the end. And oh! That's going to be 1 HP on the tower. But in the meantime, PSG pressuring in the mid lane simultaneously, looking for these objectives. A couple more autos do the trick, but respecting Tol2's engage, respecting the rotation from DFM.
See if there's a bit of a chase down here for DFM if they're actually going to go for the engage. All 5 are grouped up. Tol2 does have his ultimate back available. We'll see if he decides to pull the trigger, but doesn't look like they're going to go for it. And speaking of patience, how many people in solo queue greed for that turret and die? How many pro players do? Oh!
Or greed for this vision and die. It's JunJia caught out. A great little pick for DFM, but now Ubao wants to go for the fight anyway. Gets the charm onto Harp. There's a crescendo onto the backside as well. But in the meantime, the rest of the fight is going the way of DFM. Woody trying to escape. Wako up in the river as well as Woody does walk away with his life. Yutapon can't quite finish that one off. But it's a great little series of picks coming out for DFM, and now an opportunity.
Yeah, 2 picks, able to grab some objective bounties here as well. Drop this mid lane turret. right as we were talking about the control for PSG, JunJia gets blown up, split away from the team as well, which is what allowed the second kill to happen as PSG kind of rushed in there to save him or pick a fight that they might be able to win. Fortunately, not able to go for Baron. It did spawn right before that fight took place, but DFM not feeling confident enough to actually force that one down 3v5.
I mean, this just felt a little overconfident from JunJia. He obviously thought that there was no vision in the area, but I mean, he was sorely mistaken.
Yeah, and I respect the commitment by DFM to blow everything on finishing off here. And then you see this split fight where Steel actually did a really good job refocusing down into Azhi, comboing with Yutapon to keep him locked in place. The Ksante not able to get out there, while Wako and ubao, the two people who actually deal damage, are not next to this part of the fight that's going down. So it was a very nice split fight by DFM there. A little bit of gold back in their pocket now, down to about a 4,000 gold lead, still on the back foot, but shows some of the playmaking that this team has.
Yeah. Give them an opportunity, they will absolutely run away with it. I would describe them as a momentum-based team, right? Like when they start to get going, when they can control vision, they will find picks and they will take over. And once again, Harp the one finding that hook, finding that opportunity for his team, and buying himself a little bit of breathing room. But this is what we were talking about with PSG's objective setup, right? Complete darkness around the Baron. And they're not just going to start that. They're not going to 50-50 that. They will make sure it's complete darkness.
That's what I was going to say. The one thing about when you play so slow and you don't like forcing 5v5s is like on one end of the spectrum is T1. You know, they will start any Baron, no matter who's alive, the vision control, they'll start a Baron if they feel like it. PSG on the far side is, even if they have vision control, if they feel like DFM might face check, they're not the most aggressive team about starting it.
And there we go, they forced an ultimate out, Tol2, boots it up. Oh, it's a great little hook though from Harp. It's a crescendo of clappage as he finds himself that hook, and Steel follows up for a little bit more. Azhi hooked again. Harp is on a roll right now. It's a power chord coming on through as JunJia trying to escape. Azhi somehow gets away with his life though, and now DFM could be in trouble because Wako free firing, and it's ubao on the top side of the play. Steel trying to escape with Aria, but ubao wants to chase them down. The charm is there. A double for Wako.
Absolute miracle turnaround there. The fact that Azhi is able to get out alive somehow buys time for the rest of PSG to collapse. 4 for 1 on the tail end of that fight, and Baron gonna go in their pockets.
The hooks looked so good from Harp, but unfortunately, the greater situation, not the same. And now PSG, they get that objective that they've been posturing for.
I thought for sure DFM was about to win that fight. Maybe themselves set up for a Baron on the tail end of it, but just not enough damage to finish out Azhi there, who somehow was able to survive. Bought enough time for the rest of PSG to collapse.
Great bit of playmaking there from ubao as well on the backside of the fight. Like to threaten the backline to the point where there wasn't enough follow-up.
So exactly what I was saying, they'll almost never start the Baron. They're going to be in these near bushes, camping, trying to find picks. The fact that they get this one on Woody with a nice hook by Harp there looks like a great pick off there. The ult from Tol2 getting flashed out again. But here, the second hook onto Azhi is when I'm like, okay, this is looking great. They blow all their spells to finish him off, but you can see the kind of disruption that comes through. JunJia and ubao on those sides, flying in, stopping the damage from being able to continue through onto Azhi and actually finish him out. There's the stopwatch force by Aria. The fact that they're able to blow up Yutapon. No time to talk about it though.
Woody goes into the backside of the pit, gets a hook onto Steel. Tol2 trying to buy space for his team. 4K on the Dragon as it resets. Woody might have to get back out of the play here. Tol2 only a knock up onto JunJia. Steel 1 HP, taking down JunJia on the backside of the play, and the follow-up is there from Azhi. Pulls him over the wall and takes them down. ubao with a double, and PSG, this is full fat fighting.
A 5-for-0 PSG quadra kill coming in there for ubao. They have minions in the mid lane. This might be game if they choose to try and push down through there. Instead, working bot lane. Absolutely monstrous fight out of PSG again.
And I just want to say, 22 stacks now.
Instantly.
Bought the Medjais with confidence, and he had the play to follow it up, 14-4. And what a debut game here on the stage for this brand new PSG squad.
Absolutely crushing game 1 here. A couple of small pickoffs DFM was able to pull off, but aside from those, it has been dominance out of the side of PSG. The objective control, 3 dragons down, both Rift Heralds, the Baron in their pockets. This is what has made them such a fearsome team now. They are slow though. They did not go for the killer end that I think some LPL teams might have after winning a fight like that. They go all rush mid. Instead, they're going to go take this base, use all this gold that they just got, and really make sure this game's in their hands.
So we can have a moment to take another look at this team fight. As JunJia died in the backside alongside ubao.
Yeah, I gotta say, for Tol2 just really struggling to find targets for his ultimate here, he just kind of drops it onto the jungler for JunJia there. Ubao did ult away, but he's just never really focused the backline down. And of course, very easy for PSG to take this front-to-back team fight after they're so far ahead in gold and there's no threat on their actual backline. They just melt through DFM one after another.
I mean, they have a hell of a deal with Wako in these fights. Like, when your Malphite doesn't find that great of an ultimate, you're the ones on the back foot, you're the ones kiting away, but Aphelios is just chilling. We already talked about his absurd gold lead like hours ago in this game. It's only skyrocketed since then.
Yeah, you need some sort of insane combination of the Annie, Wukong, and Malphite, but if you don't land that, he's just going to clean up from the backside. Also did the BT second build to make sure that he has those extra defenses, with the overheal, of course, to make sure that he is a very tanky Aphelios.
He's basically a full item up Yutapon at this point. And we always talk about like the 3-item mark for great AD carries. JunJia fought again here, does get stunned, but they don't even break his shield.
No, very hard right now for DFM punch through. We'll see if they can hold on. Super creeps flooding in through the mid lane, escorted by ubao while the rest of them work on this top side. Saving grace is that the Baron buff did time out for PSG, so not empowered minions. Feel like a situation where PSG is just kind of going to use this pressure to smother DFM, keep them locked in their base for the next couple of minutes. If DFM pick a fight, they'll take it, of course, but otherwise...
Woody's just...
Sir?
Does he know? Does he know?
Does he know?
I do want to take this moment, unless we see a dive coming on through. It's definitely possible. Still, it's clone knocked back here. I don't think PSG can really commit to this one right now. So now we'll have to back away. We get to celebrate the fact that this is double elim and this is best of 3. Like, DFM, even if they end up losing this game, they get another stab at this. I would love to see a little bit more proactivity in their draft. I would love to see a bit more. Where's the Xin Zhao that we saw in their final?
Munchables already moving on to game 2. Done with game 1, huh? It's definitely the case where it does feel pretty doomed.
I can recognize a game state, okay? We're 12K up in 27 minutes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at this point.
No, they're coming back right now. TP flank from Tol2.
Here we go. Wako caught. We said, how can they catch the Aphelios? That is how the Cyclone there was steal. Going to trade his life for it. JunJia does find the answer. And now they're on the wrong side of the play. JunJia turns golden as Azhi tries to protect his jungler. Looking for Yutapon, and his AD carries down on both sides. Ahri the next target, but a great little lantern from Harp. But it's not enough. With Tol2 falling, PSG once again find their fight.
We've been hyping up Wako, but there are other threats for PSG available. Azhi and ubao clean that fight up from the backside, able to find multiple kills. He TPs into the mid lane, trying to end the game right now. TP coming in for ubao as well, healing up in the fountain first.
It's a bit aggressive from Azhi. Might be in trouble here. One more tower shot, but he walks away. That's some swagger in the top lane coming out from PSG, who look fantastic today. They woke up on the right side of the bed. They're not going to win. They're going to... And look, we said they play safe. That's as safe as it comes.
I mean, to be honest, I was surprised they TP'd mid. I thought for sure that was a take the top turret inhibitor, get your second inhib, start working down the neutral objectives as they start spawning. I was very happy to see PSG try to end the game there, but a little too risky for them. Ends up backing off as Yutapon was within 10 seconds of spawning. I can understand the concern about the Jinx resets as Baron maybe spawns shortly after. This is exactly what we were talking about. You have to get on top of Wako. Somehow the TP flank by Tol2, the ward in lane, sets this up. Aria also comboing in range to get a Q stun off, did not land the ultimate initially, as you saw Woody there trying to interrupt that, but Steel got on top of him, everyone was able to get on top of him, but it does leave your backside pretty exposed. Harp is trying to run through Azhi and ubao effectively, so even though they finish off that initial kill very cleanly onto Wako, Yutapon is now, like you said, on the wrong side of the fight and allows the rest of the team to kind of just flash on top of him. You can see the solo lane Bash brothers of PSG.
Yeah, when that all-out hits an AD carry, you just know there's nothing they can do. Ksante, one of those champions that is real oppressive in the 1v1. But now Baron just kicked straight off for PSG. They know that they have control. JunJia kind of playing bodyguard, playing bouncer in that jungle. DFM perhaps baited by the fact that it's been so slow previously. Not going to check it just yet. Steel trying to finally move on forwards. PSG kiting away from this one. JunJia behind enemy lines. He wants Yutapon here. All 5 players are here, but look at that. ubao on the play with him. And it is just immaculate. Once again, PSG looking fantastic in these fights.
Absolutely clinical fight there by PSG, finding the back line of Yutapon, instantly assassinating him. ubao and Azhi in the most 2 recent fights being absolutely huge. And this is what makes PSG such a threatening team here in stage 1 of bracket play. multiple threats available for their team. Very clean early game, and then an explosive mid to late game team fighting team.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And the PCS kind of showing up here. Game number 1, playing their game and playing it damn well. 23-5 to finish. And I think PSG making a statement here and saying, hey, we're here to play.
First game of MSI, showing up, absolutely destroying their competition and saying this is the team that you got to keep your eyes on as we move throughout this tournament. Though we might be getting ahead of ourselves. Remember, bracket play, like we said, it's a best of 3. DFM are going to have time to